If you've ever played in the park as a child or tended to a garden as an adult, you've likely encountered a lot of snails. Most snails are harmless creatures that crawl across the ground with a shell on their back. This is usually the only picture that most people have of snails. However, not all snails are like this. Some snails inhabit the waters, swimming underneath or along the surface during low tide. Some snails live in aquariums, while some snails live underground. There are a lot more amazing facts about snails that people don't know. Then, keep on watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Number 1. Snails are not insects. They crawl on the ground much like insects do, but they are actually gastropods. Gastropods are members of the Gastropoda class under the phylum Mollusca or mollusks. Number 2. Gastropods make over 80% of mollusks. Mollusks are soft-bodied invertebrates. Clams, oysters, and octopi are just some examples of animals that belong in this group. However, even if there are several creatures under this phylum, gastropods like snails and slugs still outnumber them. Number 3. Contrary to popular belief, slugs and snails are not the same. Because slugs and snails belong to the same class Gastropoda, they have many similarities. However, they are not the same. One key difference in telling the two apart is the presence of a shell. A snail has a shell while a slug doesn't. Because of this, a slug also moves faster than a snail. Number 4. There are a lot of different snail species. There are land snails and sea snails. A majority of snail species are sea snails. These sea snails also differ from each other. Some have conical or spiral shells. Some have gills while some have lungs. Number 5. A fully preserved snail dates back to 99 million years ago. The most complete snail fossil was recovered from Myanmar in 2018. It still had its shell, head, eye stalk, and foot. Most fossils only survive with the shell, so this fossil was a special and historic find. Number 6. The small snail in the world can be found in China. The Angustopila dominicae can fit through the eye of a needle. This is how small it was. Scientist Barna Palgargelli discovered this species in soil samples from Guangxi in 2015. He named it after his wife, Dominica. Number 7. The world's largest snail, on the other hand, is the giant whelk. The Australian great whelk is 70 centimeters in size. It is 3 times bigger than most snails, such as the African land snail. Number 8. Baby snails are born with a protoconch. A protoconch, or the earliest shell, is a soft and transparent shell that baby snails are born with. As they grow older and consume food with calcium in it, the shell becomes harder. Number 9. Snail shells cannot be replaced. A snail's shell acts as its home. It protects the snail's organs from harm. Minor cracks in its shell aren't fatal, and a snail can usually recover from this. It cannot, however, recover from a completely broken shell. Number 10. While most snails do, some snails do not have 2 eyes. You'll notice land snails have eyes on the tips of their tentacles. Sea snails, on the other hand, have eyes at the base of their tentacles. This limits their field of vision. There are snail species that do not have eyes at all. Underground snails will use their tentacles and other senses in order to move around. Number 11. A snail doesn't have jaws. Their mouth does not unhinge with a jaw, nor do they have teeth or fangs lined up like most animals do. Instead, snails have a radula. A radula is an elongated sac with teeth, and it is what snails use to eat and digest their food. Number 12. Despite not having jaws, snails have the most teeth out of any animal. It depends on the snail species, but a snail's radula is lined with up to 20,000 teeth. Furthermore, snail teeth are incredibly strong. The strongest natural material in the world is found in a marine snail's teeth. It was 5 times stronger than spider silk. Number 13. Snails move using only 1 foot. Snails crawl across the ground like snakes do. However, they don't use their bellies to move around. Instead, snails use one muscular foot. They secrete a lubricant that eases their movement and also protects their bodies from rough surfaces. Number 14. One day is not long enough for a snail to cover a distance of 1 mile. Snails aren't known as fast creatures. In fact, they are some of the slowest creatures out there. On average, a snail will take up to 33 hours to cover a single mile. Number 15. Snails can move faster if they are trailing behind another snail. Since a snail leaves behind a trail of secretion in their wake, another snail can use this to move faster. The existing trail makes it easier for a snail to move around because of the added traction. Number 16. The fastest snail alive is likely the plow snail. The plow snail is a sea snail that knows how to use the ocean waves to its advantage. When the timing is right, the plow snail will flex its foot, much like a boat's sail. This causes the snail to move 2.5 centimeters per second, as opposed to the usual 1 centimeter per second. Number 17. Freshwater snails are asexual. Since most freshwater snails have both egg and sperm cells, they can reproduce by themselves. This also makes it very easy for them to multiply over a short time. Number 18. A snail usually lays over 100 eggs in one clutch. Despite the large number, only a few survive. Usually, only around 20 to 50 of these eggs hatch and mature into adulthood. Number 19. Unfortunately, 1/3 of snails die after laying eggs. Laying 100 eggs can take a toll on a snail's body. It causes extreme stress that can lead to a significant loss in body mass. Because of this, some snails do not survive long after giving birth. Number 20. Garden snails are nocturnal creatures. This means that they sleep throughout the day and are active during the night. However, you might still occasionally see a garden snail out and about in the morning if it's raining. Number